New sewing ideas are coming your way, ideas that originated over 90 years ago. Amy Barackman is here on Sewing with Nancy to tell us about what was old is now new again. Welcome back, Amy.
Thank you, Nancy. It's nice to be back. During the next 2 episodes, we'll be showing the magic patterns. Mary Brooks Picken was the founder of the Women's Institute of Domestic Arts and Sciences and originally published the magic patterns concept back in the 1920s. The magic patterns that my staff and I designed are an ode to Mary's original concept, which is to take what's given and make it your own.
Magic patterns, that's what's coming up next on Sewing with Nancy.
Sewing with Nancy, TV's longest-airing sewing and quilting program with Nancy Zieman, is made possible by Baby Lock, a complete line of sewing, quilting, and embroidery machines and sergers. Baby Lock, for the love of sewing. Madeira, specializing in embroidery, quilting, and special effect threads, because creativity is never black and white. Koala Studios, fine sewing furniture custom built in America. Clover, making a difference in sewing, quilting, crafting, and needle arts for over 30 years. Amazing designs and Class A needles.
Over 90 years ago, when Mary Brooks Picken sent out her newsletters with patterns included, she gave dimensions. And things have changed just a little bit since then, Amy.
Yes, now we're printing digital patterns, similar in fashion.
So rather than having to draw out your size as you're going to be printing for each particular pattern, this one has 48 pages and tiling them together. And you may get a little concerned about tiling. It's really simple. And
let me show you. So we're going to stack our 2 pages, and they're printed in a way you can line them up and cut a couple at a time. So I'm going to take them over to the cutter, and we're going to be cutting off the top and the right as you face the paper. So we'll start here, and this paper cutter has a really nice cutting line that I can follow, square up, and make that first trim, and then remove my paper and move on to my next cut. Again, lining up to be sure I'm getting the paper square and that line exactly on
it's a little
the
wire.
Cutting line. Yes, it's a little, so I'll slide it back that way. And then the magic. So what we'll do is we'll match the 3C together.
There's a little notch, and you match like numbers together and tape them together. And you keep making pairs. And then the pairs are taped together into, this is a smaller pattern, but you can see all of your sizes from small to extra large in this particular pattern piece. Now, if you want to cut out your size, you may, but I like to keep this intact. How about you?
I do too. Then you can have your different sizes together if you want to make multiples of the same garment.
Then on tissue paper or special pattern tracing paper, you can trace off the size that you'd like and keep this size all together. And this is how we work, the modern way of working with patterns digitally, which you'll find offering online and by many companies. From retro to modern, the first magic pattern, a tank top, can be changed easily by adding gathers, ruffles, or using vintage fabric. The sewing is designed to take a minimum of time with a maximum of style. Now we're going to work with simple sewing, and Amy, this tank top, you can make changes and they don't have to be difficult.
Not at all. Simple yet stylish details that change the pattern in each version. Here we added a little ruffle at the neckline, and it's just a simple detail that adds an accent.
And that gathering is just created by changing your time when you're laying out the pattern. Now, you can see that this pattern was originally designed to be placed on the fold of the fabric. We just traced that off.
Right, and what we're doing is we're adjusting the pattern 1 inch when we cut it on the fold to allow for this little gather detail.
I like to make patterns more than once, never just one time, because you put investment in that pattern, but this little change, you cut the pattern out, can make a difference, a nice style difference. Now you'd cut this out, do a little bit more pinning, and then measure 2 inches from the fold to each, let me put that to the right measurement, 2 inches, and place a mark on both sides of the fabric. And then run just one gathering stitch, a little basting stitch.
It's amazing what one little
Yeah.
gathered line can do.
So we lengthen the stitch. I tack down the top thread by winding it around a pin like a figure 8, and then pulling the bobbin thread. This is the hint, you know, the bobbin thread always pulls easier than the top thread. So there you go, you have pulled it. And Amy, to make sure that I have the right amount, I'm just going to lay this back down and then get your pattern piece.
Sure, and
I better
double check.
I better get the right pattern piece here. I have to unpin it, excuse me, and lay it on top of that gathered section to make certain that the width is correct. And I was pretty good at that.
Yep, looks great.
So you could then pin the other end of the thread, wrap it around, and then you'd have that little gathering at the front. I know it's simple, but it makes a difference. You could also use that tank top and add flounces.
I love this version. So you can see how we've have 4 graduated flounces. Down the front, they're cut on the bias, so they have a raw edge. A real simple technique that just adds a touch of femininity to the tank too that I love.
Now this is like a cotton batiste, it's lightweight, but keep in mind this is bias and the edges are raw.
How simple.
Oh, I don't think 90 years ago they let those edges be raw.
I agree. I don't think Nancy maybe would. I mean, Nancy, Mary.
Not quite that old. Right. So here we have the strips that were cut wider than the front of the top. And again, having just one basting stitch. If you want to do a lot of gathers, you could perhaps do more than you could put 2 rows of basting stitches, but we just have one. But first we're going to do some layouts.
And it's just a slight gather that we're adding when we do these.
You don't want it poofy.
Right, just subtle.
So I have the center front marked, and then you can either do some measuring according to the pattern directions or just estimating by placing marks along the side. The first flounce is going to align with the the underarm, and then we have them placed about 3 inches apart. Amy, you found it easiest to start with the second one.
Yes, I think that was just a point that worked well for us, and then we added the flounces from there.
You just slightly, I mean, it's really a slight gather, and then again I'm going to pull that bobbin thread and put it in here, and you kind of
just
get
take your time because you don't want to break the thread.
Yeah. Now there are many ways of gathering. This is just one of them. Use your favorite method, and I'm trying to ease that in here. You know, when you're busy and you're out of time, there you go. There it goes, a lot better. And you'd place it across so that the fabric's flat, and it's kind of perpendicular to the center front. And there you go. You would stitch it down along that basting stitch. Lift this up, put in the next one.
Place your next one. Yep.
Yeah, pretty easy. This one also has a nice neckline change.
Yes, this neckline finishes just really with a professional look. And we'll be adding the bias, stitching it in place, and then folding it over several times. And I know you did it in contrasting fabric, so we could see clearly how this process is done.
This particular pattern has a pattern for the bias trim. Now, Amy had matching fabric. This is contrasting fabric. And I'm going to show this to you on the armhole where the trim has been sewn together, meeting right sides, and then pressed with wrong sides meeting, and long edges. And this is quite simple. Meeting right sides together, align the edges, and it's kind of on a 1-to-1 ratio, so you can just get them to match. And I'll pin a couple more times. And while I'm pinning this, you can watch how it's a close-up of stitching the bias trim to the edge. Just stitch around the edge, sewing with the bias upward. And then after you've gone in the circle, on the neckline we have it here, where we have the trim has been pressed upward and then turned to the inside. And because it's on the bias, it will meet that curve. And again, here's another quick stitching or close-up of stitching of attaching the trim around the edge. So it's kind of like a quilt technique, but it's nice and fast. Now, a vintage look.
Yes, we're going to move on to incorporating vintage fabrics in the tank design. I love going to the thrift shops, and it's amazing the fabric that you can find. Here we have with the tank, with the flounce that's a graduated, we've used, probably this might have been a drapery fabric or a decorator fabric that we've incorporated into the tank. The other idea we came up with was to add a scarf as the accent to the bodice. And so what you see here is a scarf that we've attached to the bottom of the bodice. And the fun thing about this is that there was enough fabric left over to have a little flounce that would hang. And the finished edge of the scarf can actually be the finished edge of your garment for a simple technique, but adding a fun accent.
So if you want to use that finished edge on the scarf pattern, one other alternative is to have a large scarf, have the edges, you wouldn't have to trim that edges, you could just trim it.
You could just follow the
line.
the
and
line of
then
the pattern.
Make a simple top that's in the pattern so you can combine new and old fabric and make it your own. Onward to skirts. Learn how to stretch your creativity and make the magic swirl. We'll start with a basic sewing technique, learning how to sew a waistband, then adding a pleat, and finally repurposing menswear for another charmed style. What I like about Magic Patterns is starting simple.
Simple design, and here is a very simple way to approach the waistband of a skirt for a flattering style. We have in the front the darts with the flat waistband and then the elastic in the back.
And they're all going to be finished nicely, and you could add this to this pattern or any pattern you have at home. I like the flatness and then the comfort of the elastic in the back.
Definitely.
Now, you're going to work differently with the front and back. That's a given. And as I'm pulling up the pattern piece, the waistband pattern piece, we've added some fusible interfacing. And Amy, this is the underside of the waistband, so we've done a little pressing.
Yes, that, and you can see here that the denim is what we're using, which works well for this waistband.
So this has been pressed by 1/2 inch, and it's on a 1-to-1 ratio, believe it or not, with the front. After the darts have been sewn in, meet the front waistband to the front piece. You can see a press line. We kind of gave it a little memory, pressed it in half, but that's not absolutely necessary, but it does help. And then meet all the edges. So you're sewing it flat at this point. You're not sewing in a circle. And then you kind of set this aside.
Yes.
The back has some of the similar characteristics. And let's look at the waistband piece. We did some memory pressing again. You know, press it in half so you get the crease mark, and then you can press under the
1/4 inch.
the seam allowance that you have right there. And sew it again flat, 1-on-1. And then as we press it around, I'll just flip this around. It's a lot of folding, pressing, and then we'd press along the front.
Want me to go ahead and press that?
I would like you to do that.
Yes. The iron is our friend.
It is. You know, my mom always said to me, and still I remember, so press, and it makes a big difference. Give it a shot of steam, I think. There you go. And then on this particular piece, you just remember that fold and stitch along that lower edge. So you're working flat. This is what I like about this technique. You're not in a circle. Now, Amy,
It allows you to get just a really nice finish.
So this is the back piece, and we've stitched this flat, and you have...
I have the wonderful tool that's going to allow us to pull the elastic through the waistband. So we would pull that all the way through. It's really a wonderful...
And when you get near the end of that elastic, Amy's probably not going to get through with the time we
we'll
have
see.
allowed.
I got a ways to go.
You're going to pin that elastic to the skirt so it doesn't pull all the way out. I've had that happen a time
And
or
then
two.
you have to start over.
Yeah, you do.
No fun.
But now it's time to attach it to the front. And you can see the elastic is stitched, or
There we
excuse
go.
me, pulled through.
Thank you.
And now you meet, I'm going to take that pin out, you're going to meet right sides together for the side seam, and we'll match up the waistband treatment. And now, here's the top of the front. To finish it, it wraps around the side seam, and then you would sew the side seam on both edges. So I'm going to do that once more because this is so important.
Such a neat, nice finish.
The top edge of the back, which has been finished, and the pressed edge of the front are aligned, and then the back, the front wraps around the back. And on this side, it's been stitched. So you stitch the side seam. You can do some trimming. But I'm just going to show what happens.
Magic.
Yeah, it is. And then that front piece can be stitched down just the way we did on the back piece. And you have the comfort in the back and the firm, smooth line in the front. I like it.
Yes, yes.
So you can also then, after you've learned that technique, you can do some magic options to your skirt. And Amy, you want to tell our viewers about this?
So on this version of the skirt, we added a center pleat. So we just allowed, when we cut the pattern out for an additional 4 inches, that then we pressed into place. You can see where we added some pockets for detail. Everybody loves having a pocket for your cell phone. So this is a fun variation of the previous 2 we've looked at.
So here's the fabric, and we're just going to go quickly through this, but you're going to lay out the pattern, the skirt pattern, 4 inches from the fold.
Right, here's the handy tool. So we'll line it up.
And I'm not going to really pin for good, but you get the idea. Yeah.
There you go.
And then you cut it out after you've done this and put a pin, at which we have on our next sample, at that 4-inch mark. And then stitch down 8 inches. So here's the 4-inch mark, and we stitch down 8 inches. At the hem, we've pinned the edges together and also put a pin at the center front. Now we're going to match up. This is just a pressing technique I'd like to share with you, but if you have the fold of the fabric, you align it to the center seam. The fold to the seam, I'm just going to pin, and you want to do the same down below. And then we're just going to kind of tell you about this, but I think you need to do pressing before you do any other sewing. Yeah, here we go.
Definitely.
And then you can just press down this area, and if you don't want to get the imprint from the crease, then you can place a pressing tool, a curved pressing tool underneath, and you just keep doing this down the edge. Ah, perfect. So you get it pressed before you do the sewing, and a great style feature. Now, Amy,
Excellent.
You're kind of known for vintage.
Yes, I love
Recycling
repurposing, recycling, and menswear in particular is a great rack to look for beautiful fabrics at the thrift shop. This is an example of a skirt that has this nice overlay, and you can see that we used a pinstripe and like a wool crepe that we found off the rack.
Yes.
And these were actually men's pants. So over here you can see some of the various fabrics and textures that we found, a little check and then a window pin type plaid. But what we do with the pants is we actually will take them apart first at the crotch seam, and then we'll take the side seams, center side seams out and iron out the hem. And here you can see where we are with,
Magic. We have
with
samples,
the pants.
yes.
And we have beautiful fabric to work with.
Yeah, it really is lovely. And so here's the fabric. We've cut out the skirt yoke, the skirt back. We did some folding of the waistbands to place it on the edge. Now this isn't exactly on grain, but this is a small piece.
Right. So we
it's
have a little forgiveness there.
Yes. And just to show you that probably you'll need to purchase fabric that coordinates with it. And this just shows the
denim worked
combination.
well, yes.
Denim and some menswear, and then you have that overlap. So combining regular fabrics with repurposed fabric, learning some basic sewing techniques, you have great ways of making your next skirt. For this Nancy's Corner segment, we're going on the road to Puyallup, Washington, to the Sewing and Stitchery Expo, where you're going to see a fashion show. Young girls making their garments through the 4-H Club. You're going to be amazed.
The 4-H program is 100 years old, and we know it's a program that works. If you talk to anyone who had any kind of 4-H in their background, they'll smile and be very proud of what they did or tell you what they did. And it ain't all cows and cooking anymore. I have in my club lots of urban 4-Hers doing a variety of projects. Sewing isn't the only thing that we do, everything from rocketry to raising chickens and all kinds of crafts.
4-H Fashion Review fashion show that you will see here at the Sewing and Stitchery Expo is an encore performance of the kids' competition that they had at the State Fair. I had 75 kids compete in the show, and 24 of them will be here today. During the show, they were judged on the outfits they were wearing, on how well it was sewn, how well they could talk about the outfit and accessorize it and model in it.
The zipper was challenging, but
I grew up as a 4-Her in Oregon with an excellent clothing instructor to teach the sewing skills, and I've tried to do that. I prefer working with the youngest kids, starting them when they're 8 years old, get them on that sewing machine, and it empowers them to make things and make the best better.
I also grew up in 4-H. I got back on the scene full-time as an adult volunteer about 8 years ago with the club, and I am now the club leader of that club. We have 21 kids in our club. They range in age from third graders all the way up to seniors in high school. For my first year kids, I have a set curriculum. I have them follow certain projects I like them to make to learn different sewing skills, learn how to use the machine, maybe how to use the serger, and then after that, they can sew whatever they want. I have no restrictions. If they want to sew a simple little dress, great. If they want to make their prom dress, awesome. If they want to make a wool outfit for Make It With Wool, even better. I will let them sew whatever they want, and I usually have about 4 or 5 other adult 4-H leaders who assist me.
I have been a 4-H leader for 44 years, and I concentrate on teaching sewing skills. January and February are devoted to making small objects and things to learn their skills, and we use Nancy Zeman's Let's Sew book as our curriculum. Turn to page 61 and learn how to sew on a button. The younger ones in 4 hours can make a t-shirt and shorts or something like that, and they're happy with it.
I consider every 4-H member in the state part of my family, my kids. I just love them. I can't imagine not working with kids. Just have fun, you guys. I'm going to take you guys backstage.
this is 15-year-old Faith Simmons, a 5-year member of the fund.
Did you have to do some fitting on that dress?
Yes, lots of fitting. I tried to keep it in here where it would fit nice and everything because I wanted it to look really nice. And then I had to take this in and out.
Formal dress for her appointment as a jurisdictional representative to North and South Dakota in the International Order of Rainbow for Girls. She wore this dress with the other members in the 2000.
I would like to go to college to learn how to sew more so I can go forward in sewing, but I'd like to be a vet also.
12-year-old Brianna Imler wanted to sew on something to wear when she shows dogs. She modified it.
I've actually been sewing for about 4 years now.
You've made this jacket and you made it lined.
Yeah.
Now that's not an easy task.
No, not whenever it's so silky and all the pins just fly everywhere.
What was your favorite part of making this outfit?
Probably learning how to make buttonholes.
Not everyone's comfortable with it, so that's good to
No.
see. Well, keep up the good work. Maybe you can have my job someday.
That would be awesome.
I'm sure you were as inspired as I was watching the girls and all their great sewing accomplishments. If you'd like to rewatch that interview or the show on magic patterns, go to nancyzieman.com and click on one of the 70 videos that you can watch. Or you can join me on social media by Facebook or by Pinterest or my blog. Again, thanks for joining me. Be back next time with another episode of Magic Patterns. Bye for now.
Amy Barrickman has written the Magic Pattern book that serves as a reference for this two-part series. The book includes a CD with printable patterns for sizes small to extra, extra large. It's $15.99 plus shipping and handling. To order the book, call 800-336-8373 or visit our website at sewingwithNancy.com/2807. Order item number MPBK. To pay by check or money order, call the number on the screen for details. Visit Nancy's website at nancyzieman.com to see additional episodes, Nancy's blog, and more. Sewing with Nancy, TV's longest-airing sewing and quilting program with Nancy Zieman, has been brought to you by Baby Lock, Madeira Threads, Koala Studios, Clover, Amazing Designs and Class A Needles. Closed captioning funding provided by Pellon. Sewing with Nancy is a co-production of Nancy Zieman Productions and Wisconsin Public Television.